Our sixth speaker is Mr. Peter Herman, member of the European Academy of Science and Arts and professor of Central South University. The topic is CPC and Chinese human rights undertaking progress. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I want to highlight some theoretical issues in the discussion on human rights. What I heard was surprisingly nice coming from a Western perspective, where many aspects that had been mentioned actually would be rejected. Namely, that it is a matter of the society and social rights, and not only the rights of individuals. Karel Vasak, he suggested 3 stages of civil political rights, passing through economic, social and cultural rights, and then arriving at so-called solidarity rights. But all this had been very much aimed on individual rights, on the rights of individuals to unfold, to realize themselves. Now, going a little bit back into history, we can explain this. The origin of human rights discourses had been very much linked to the fight of the against the ancient system, against the feudal lordships by the rising bourgeoisie. They made a coalition with the proletariat, all emerging, all at a very young stage, and then actually, and this is very important, peripheralized certain countries, namely the colonies. Now, after succeeding, after overcoming the ancient system, the feudal system, the coalition between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat and the peasants had been split, had been resolved, and there was the split within society. So human rights have been very much finding its origins in the fight of individuals to obtain rights against the feudal system. This is often forgotten, and what we have to emphasize that we find these 2 systems going hand in hand: fight against the feudal system and the idea of a free society, of free individuals. But there was a major problem with it, that namely this split had been reinforced instead of overcome. So we have the problem that in the human rights discourse later then, especially when it was established with the United Nations, with the entire system, what prevailed was the individualist approach, dominated of course by the United States of America and by their interpretation of capitalism. And this capitalism had not been any capitalism of free individuals, free competition, but it had been the competition automatically, systematically leading to the dominance of some strong enterprises, of monopolies, and then it was actually continued on the international level. We found since the establishment of the United Nations ongoing wars. We found on the one hand decolonialization, but at the same time these former colonies had been drawn with into the world, into the global economic system, not giving them an opportunity to develop on their own interest, in their own interest, and on their own behalf. So what we find economically was the production for a market outside of these countries, export-oriented, and neglecting their own interest. This was the first stage. Now this kind of changed with the emergence of the socialist countries as a world system against the capitalist world system, and especially China playing more and more an important role in terms of overcoming this economic split and, as it had been mentioned in several contributions, working in an economic system for the own people, overcoming poverty, overcoming the problems of education, which had been in the originally very much an elitist approach. This had been overcome, and this is an heritage that had been left behind. The health system has to be mentioned, can be mentioned, many other areas. And this is something in structural terms, but that is very more important. It was not a matter of overcoming the poverty of individuals, but it had been a matter of overcoming the poverty of a society. This is, interestingly enough, something that in Western societies is completely neglected, and there we find the opposite, the contrary approach of emphasizing human rights, what they call human rights, as rights of individuals and of individuals only. So what we have to acknowledge in theoretical terms, coming then to law and the question of rights, human rights, is that right or law is always something that is connected with a struggle. There is no such thing as justice, as law, as legality, as such. It is always a matter of negotiations and struggles. This had been largely from different sides, from conservatives and from progressive sides, acknowledged. But in reality, we find the claim of generally valid rights. I think this is something we have to overcome, and this is something where actually countries like China play, especially in recent times, again, a very important role. And as the time is, we all speak about the pandemics. We see there, and I don't want to talk about the individual measures, but we see there, on the one hand, the difficulties of developing a strategy, a strategic plan that is all-encompassing. There is something that we cannot forecast, that we cannot see in advance, but at the same time, we see that China, with acknowledging the right of society, had been able to overcome, by and large, the pandemics. Whereas in countries, in Western countries, look at the United States, look at Germany, where I'm currently located, we have huge problems that individual rights are prioritized, and at the end of the day means individual burdens are permanently prolonged, and nobody knows what is going on in the next second. This is something I think that is hugely important to consider the difference. What do we address? Where do we actually put the emphasis? And this is, in theoretical terms, something law has to rethink in general terms, and it is a subject I'm interested in for a long time, how to define really social rights, not as right of individuals to be promoted, but as right of a society we live in. So on the one hand, I think having now 100 years the Communist Party of China and the experience there, we can learn quite a lot. We, meaning the Western countries, can learn quite a lot of an approach that is allowing to shift the tension, and we always have a tension there, to shift the tension towards the social dimension. And that means not to support, as I said, individuals, but to establish the conditions that make it possible for all people to live a life in dignity, to promote equality, and to promote especially freedom as something to make something out of the conditions that are existing. And the conditions are then increasing. At the end, some very basic statement: of course, law plays a role. And this means simply what is called constitutional state or whatsoever. And this is as well that we have to fight for the implementation and realization of the framework as it is given by the United Nations. But at the same time, we have to recognize it is not only and not possibly not primarily about legality, but it is about justice. And this is a huge task. It's a permanent challenge to determine, to define justice, what it actually means. And there I'm back to struggle of law. And I'm glad that I can be a little bit part of this struggle that is actually happening here, to develop new ideas on human rights, to overcome this individualist approach. And this is my personal ambition, to combine the economic dimension, meaning the formation of an economic system, with the question of what actually human rights and rights in general mean. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to follow the discussion.